Hello there, it's me, Civilla Morgan. Welcome to another episode of Childless Not by Choice. By the time you hear this episode, it will probably be March, so it will probably be episode 116, 117. I'm not sure yet because I'm actually recording just 35 minutes before 2020 makes its entrance. Yeah, I decided to record this because I started typing because I have so many episode ideas rolling around in my brain that I actually have voice memos. I've got so many voice memos for possible episode ideas for this podcast as well as the new one. And it's getting out of hand. There are just so many ideas. But this particular episode, I thought as I was typing, I hadn't even finished the first sentence. I was like, let's just go ahead and record it because it's on my mind. It's on my heart. My heart is bubbling over with this. And so I thought I'd just record. So here we are. I'm recording. And the title of this episode is, It's Not Just About Being Childless Not by Choice. It's not, dare I say, that simple. There is so much more to it. Life. There's so much more to being childless not by choice. It's not just about that. It's about the fact that you didn't get to have the children, which may sound a little redundant, but think about it. Childless not by choice, and you didn't get to have the children. Sounds similar? But if you think about it, it sounds a little dissimilar, if I should use that word, or maybe just not so much the same. There's a difference between being childless not by choice. It's a life. It's a life we got, the cards we were dealt, and not getting to have the children. At some point, you get to where, I don't want to say get over because you don't get over it, but you get to the point where you didn't get to have the children becomes being childless not by choice. It's like you transition from not getting to have the children. When you hear the words, I'm sorry, in some of your cases, you had a miscarriage. The doctor says it was a miscarriage. Or, I'm sorry, and the doctor says, I don't know why you're not getting pregnant. And I have an episode on that. I'll put that in the show notes. Idiopathic infertility. Or you hear, I'm sorry, we just spent 4 hours trying to get to the fibroids, but we'd never quite made it to the fibroids because there was so much scar tissue. We just decided to bring you back out. We never got to the fibroids. And so being childless not by choice is what happens after you didn't get to have the children. After you're told everything I just told you. One of those is my story, by the way. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. Sometimes you don't even get an I'm sorry. Sometimes it's just very clinical, which is annoying, but not all doctors have great bedside manners, so you get to cry, and they sit there and look at you cry, or some of them. I had a great OBGYN doctor. I truly believe he cared. I was fortunate. I had to switch doctors to find him because my first doctor immediately, and you know the story, some of you, if you've been listening long enough, the first doctor said, why don't you just have a hysterectomy? Although he knew I didn't have children and I wanted to have children, after looking at my lab results, he said, just have a hysterectomy. That was his response. So I ran out of his office and never looked back and thought, I don't think that's the doctor for me. I'm going to need to find another doctor, which is something I always tell you all. Don't settle for that doctor. If you're not clicking with him, if he's not explaining things to you, if he's not, or she, not answering your questions, find another doctor. That's what I did. And The doctor I ended up with, as I said, was a very caring doctor. I believe he truly cared. And I'm really thankful for that. So you don't have to stick with the first doctor you find. But let's get back to it's not just about being childless, not by choice. So you get past the I'm sorry's, it's not going to happen, and you get to you're living a childless, not by choice life, but you're thinking, well, I didn't get to have the kids. I'm now living a childless, not by choice life, but it's not as simple as it sounds. So what do you do next? What do you do when it's not as simple as it sounds? And maybe all along you were trying to keep it simple by saying, I didn't get to have the kids, or saying you're childless not by choice, which sounds kind of, maybe not clinical, but maybe a way of just not having to explain yourself. It sounds almost kind of clinical, doesn't it? Childless not by choice. Never thought of it that way, but it does sound kind of clinical. At any rate, it is what it is. That's the life we're living. We're living the lives of childless not by choice women and men. And in 2020, I want to get to the point where I can talk to people who are living that life on a really big stage. I'll leave it there for now. I'll let you know. I mean, if you listened to the February episode, you heard my conversation with Dave Jackson. And I want to once again say that if you don't know who he is like the biggest name in podcasting. Sorry, everybody else, but he really is. He is. Everybody in podcasting knows who he is. And you know what? They wouldn't begrudge him or for me saying that, because it's true. There are several names in the podcasting space, maybe 10 names that everybody knows. Everybody knows in podcasting. And he's one of those 10 people. There may be more than 10 that have been podcasting since day one. And I'm not throwing shade on you. It's just that, especially for those of us who are newer, I've been podcasting for 5 years. And podcasting came out around 2004, 2005. So he's been in it since the beginning. And, being able to get to talk to him about something as personal as not getting to have the children, not exactly having the family you thought you would have, that's the point I'm trying to make here. Isn't it weird when you think about it sometimes? I'm not trying to re-break any hearts or set anybody back or trigger anyone. It's just that it just occurred to me that we really are not living the lives we thought we would. We didn't get the family we thought we would. Okay, let me speak for myself. I really thought that I would be married with children. I'd never in a million years, and I've said it before, never in a million years did I think that I would never get married or never have children. It never crossed my mind that was a thing even. I didn't know anybody. And if I did know anybody who never got married or had children, I probably thought they were weird or there was something wrong with them. I'll be honest. And now here we are. Here I am. And it's just sometimes it feels like an out-of-body experience. Let me be real. And you'd think, well, isn't she over it yet? Especially if you are married with children, you're probably thinking, get over it. Or maybe you're thinking, not everybody gets what they want, And I get all of that. And maybe you're single and childless like me and you're thinking the same thing. Why doesn't she just get over it already? But I think I can live the life I've been given, the cards I've been dealt, and live it to the best of my ability and still be able to talk like this. I have that option, and I'm going to. I'm going to talk like this. But it's just something that really it just struck me. I don't know if you can hear the fireworks out there, as it is 27 minutes to midnight, Tuesday, December 31st, the last day of the year 2019, the last day of an entire decade. And yeah, we're entering another decade, another year. And no, I'm not going to get over it. I'm going to live the life I've been given to live. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm going to keep talking about the childless, not by choice experience. And I'm going to encourage you, encourage every childless, not by choice woman and man that I meet. I'm going to interview people, the people that I have on my wish list. Oh, I'm not going to mention any names until the recording is in the can. But let me tell you, I have a wish list. And I'm going to keep getting the word out and spreading the word about the fact that we do exist, and we exist in plain sight. And depending on where on the journey we are, we may not be doing so well, we may be doing okay, or we may just be, some days are better than others. And again, this is something that we've talked about here before. Being childless not by choice, being single, not married, never married, whatever the case may be, it's a sort of loss. Not that we are, as women who never married, holding up men on a pedestal or looking down on men. It's just that it's a loss of a life we expected. I hope that makes sense. When you're expecting something, we have a saying in the Caribbean, when you are expecting a certain meal and you're looking forward to the meal, and then for whatever reason it doesn't happen, maybe plans changed or you got a different meal, or it just wasn't cooked to your expectations, or whatever it is, we say, man, I had my mouth set for that. I had my mouth set for that lobster. Or I had my mouth set for that burger. And so you had your mouth set, or your life, your dreams set for one type of life, and you got a different type of life. We got a different type of life. So, yeah, it's gonna sting a little sometimes. And they're really going crazy out there. Anyway, I'm just talking at this point. I don't have anything that I really typed out, and maybe if I had typed it out, it wouldn't come out like this. And I just felt, one of those raw and real moments, and I thought I would just hit record and start talking, and so that's what I'm doing. The noise, the bombs blasting in the air outside, it's kind of distracting, so I'm sorry. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, no matter how long it is that we are childless not by choice, it's going to be like loss. We're never really going to truly get over it. You don't get over the loss of a loved one. You just live with it. And it's the same with being childless not by choice. You just live with it. So there are things going to be that are going to trigger you, and I did an episode on that too. I'm going to put that in the show notes. When you know what your triggers are, you've got the upper hand. So I really ask you, I beg you to learn what your triggers are. Don't be afraid of them. Don't look the other way. Don't pretend. We all have triggers, all of us. Whether it's something that happened to us early in life, a trauma that happened, we have triggers. So it's no use pretending. The best thing to do is to know what those triggers are. So when you see them coming, well, you can see them coming. You recognize them before they hit you upside the head. And then you're left stumbling around and wondering what just happened and trying to fix it in real time. And most things can't be fixed in real time. So my suggestion is to learn your triggers, master them, know what they are, and when they do come, because they will, because that's life, you'll know how to deal with them, or you'll deal with them better than you have been dealing with them. So that's my suggestion on triggers. But it's a great episode, if I do say so myself. I'll put that in the show notes. I've got 2 episodes so far since I've been talking that I'll be putting in the show notes for this episode. But let me get back to, it's not just about being childless, not by choice. If only it were that simple, right? No, we've got to deal with all these different layers. There are different layers to being childless, not by choice. And dare I mention them again? You're childless, not by choice. You may or may not be husbandless, not by choice. So you didn't get the children. Some of you are married, but you don't have children. It's a different dynamic. Different dynamic when you're married with no children versus unmarried and no children. There's no one lesser than the other, by the way. Then there's a layer if you had a miscarriage. There's a layer if you have no idea why you cannot get pregnant. There is a layer if you were fighting the clock and the clock won. There are all types of layers and pieces of a pattern to this childless not by choice thing. And so we're a demographic comprised of people who are childless not by choice, but childless not by choice for different reasons. So we still have to be kind to each other. No one story is more important than the others. And no one's reason for being childless not by choice is more difficult than the other. We're all childless not by choice. It's not that simple, come to think of it. If you have any input, of course, let me know. I can always add it to the next episode. I don't know why maybe it's because we're going into a new decade, but it's really kind of just weighing on me tonight. At any rate, let me know if you have any thoughts on what I just said. I hope I wasn't rambling. I hope I made sense. And I'm, of course, always wishing you the best. We're still at this point of, when you're hearing this recording, still pretty early in the year. So I'm wishing you all the best in your dreams and wishes. I don't believe in resolutions. I believe in making a plan. And so, I have that vision, goals and vision template that I promote a lot. It's on the shop page of the Childless Not by Choice website. You do not have to be childless not by choice to use the template. It's a template that was created for everyone. It took me several years to come up with it. I used to use it myself. And then I thought, well, why not just share it? And so it's now on the shop page of the Childless Not by Choice website. So check it out. It's called Blueprint for Your Goals and Visions. It's literally a template. You just fill in the blanks. I've done the work. I did the research. I followed and learned from and watched and read about people, successful people, and what they did at the beginning of a year or the ending of the previous year. They did things like for me, I buy the following year's daytimer in September. It happens in September. And so in September, I start transitioning to the new daytimer. I'm a daytimer person. And so I don't wait till December or January to buy a daytimer. I already start to write in the new daytimer and put, birthdays in there, schedule things that need to be done. It's already been written in since September. Things like those keep you from losing your mind, especially as a caregiver. If any of you are caregivers, keeping things written down, keeping lists, even the grocery list. There's a grocery list on the side of the refrigerator. You just write things down as you run out of them. And then when it's grocery day, you remember, that's the key, remember to take a picture of the list, and because you take your smartphone with you wherever you go, there's your grocery list. And so little things you do so that you stay on top of things and stay in control of your life that you're managing, plus the other lives that you're managing as a caregiver. Every little thing helps. And so this little blueprint for your goals and visions, it's kind of like that. You fill in the blanks of the things you want to do for the year, and then you follow through. You keep an eye on what it is you filled in on the goals and visions blueprint. So I hope you'll check it out. I really do. I use it every year, and this year will be no different. So thanks for listening. I hope that you got that really the bottom line is it's not that simple. It's just not that simple. Childless not by choice is not simple. It's a lot of things behind it going on with it, a lot of layers, a lot of stories. Everybody's got a story. It's one of my favorite sayings in the American vernacular. Everybody's got a story. And so you don't just automatically write somebody off because they say they're childless not by choice. They've got a story. And your story is going to be different than mine. And mine's going to be different than the next person. And so pay attention to people's stories. Listen. Hear what they're saying. Hear without having your response ready. Just kind of listen. Let's listen this year and tune in to other people. I think that'll help us a lot socially. In the world we're living in right now, it's very crazy. But I know that if we stop to listen to people and pay attention to what they're saying, and a lot of times what they're not saying, it'll help all of us if we listen to each other a little bit more. With that, I am going to sign off. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you continuing to tune in as you hear different changes being made on the podcast. Maybe the music is different now. There are some episodes where there is no music, and that's after so many episodes of having the same lovely music. I still love the music. I just wanted to make a change. And so there are changes on the platform, but it's here to stay. It's here to stay. And I do appreciate those of you who have subscribed. I don't know who you are, but I can see and pretty much tell how many subscriptions there are. And remember, subscribing is free. It always sounds like you have to pay. The word subscribe sounds like you have to pay, but you don't have to pay. And so subscribing to the podcast is free. And I can tell how many there are, and I would really love it if you would subscribe, because as soon as a new episode comes out, you get notification on your podcast player, whatever it is that you use, whether it's Overcast or Stitcher. What is it? There's so many casts. There's, you know what? Let me look at my phone, because I'm subscribed as Himalaya. Who else is there? Castro, that's the one I was trying to remember. Castro, Luminary, Bullhorn, and of course Apple Podcasts, Podbean. You name it, the podcast is there. And so subscribe on any of those players that you like. Everybody has their preference for the type of player, And there's one that I listen to more than others. I listen on Stitcher for the most part, but I do tune in on the other podcasts because I have different podcasts on different podcast players. And I do that on purpose. Although my podcast is on all of these players, I want to see how my podcast shows up on these different players. And then I have certain podcasts on certain podcast players just to separate them out. And it's a good way of knowing when you're subscribed that your podcast is out. There's a new episode out, and you can tune in. So, any questions about subscribing? Let me know. I'll show you how, or tell you how. I think that's it. You want to go to the blueprints for your goals and visions? Go to the shop page on childlessnotbychoice.net. You want to subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. I just mentioned the podcast players that are out there. There are probably more, but Apple Podcast, Castro, Overcast, Luminary, Himalaya, Stitcher, Bullhorn. You can also listen on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. Just about any place there's a podcast, you can hear Childless Not by Choice podcast. And of course, if you want to make a contribution monthly, if you want your credit or debit card to be deducted monthly, go to the Patreon page for childlessnotbychoice.net. Or if you just want to make a one-time contribution, some people have done that, just go to PayPal and PayPal Books by Civilla Morgan at gmail.com. That's Books by Civilla Morgan at gmail.com. I'm going to be upgrading quite a bit this year, and so it's time for me to upgrade some things with how I record. And any contributions, any dollar amount will be welcomed. It's going to go towards this podcast, the entire platform basically, so that would include my other podcast, not just another religion and politics podcast. That's a limited edition podcast. It's going to be just 25 episodes. And so feel free to tune in over there as well. More on that when it's available. I'll keep you posted. I'm trying not to mix the two together, so I'm not going to talk about it much here. But it is a new podcast. By the time you hear this recording, it should be already live and up and running. So at this point, I will say goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, have a great one. Bye.